Good morning, gardeners. I'm here at the Unity Church-Unitarian Children's Garden, and I'm thinking today about patience, because one thing gardens teach us is patience. When I start my tomato plants, usually in early March, you put that little seed in the dirt under lights in your house and you wait 6 weeks, and then you plant them outside, and then you wait another 6 weeks before you have the first fruit. It's a long time to wait, and that waiting is worth it in the end because you've got something quite tasty, but the waiting is hard. So as we light our chalice today, I want us to think about waiting and the patience that it takes to wait. And we will light our chalice as a symbol of our faith, the light of truth and the warmth of love. And then we move to our joys and sorrows. I am thinking today about the state fair and the fact that we can't go to the state fair this year because of COVID. So that's kind of a sad thing, but we can still take pleasure in what nature has to offer us and the friendships that we can maintain online and sometimes in person. And for that, I am very grateful. And I will put a yellow stone in my leaf. And now it's your turn. So at home, if you would like to do joys and sorrows, you may. If you want to just think it in your heart, that's okay too. And I'm realizing we didn't sing our song, so we can sing our song together. Rise up, O flame. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing. Show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing. Show to us beauty, vision, and joy. So Dan has a really fun story today about Anansi the spider, and you may know Anansi as the African spider, and these are trickster stories about Anansi who gets into a lot of trouble. Let's see what Anansi's up to today. Dan?
Today's story is Anansi and the Talking Melon, retold by Eric A. Kimmel, illustrated by Janet Stevens. Now, Anansi's stories are from Africa, and Anansi is a spider who's clever but kind of lazy. One morning, Anansi the spider sat high up in a thorn tree, looking down into the elephant's garden. The elephant was hoeing his melon patch. The ripe melon seemed to call out to Anansi, "Look how juicy and sweet we are. Come, eat us." Now, Anansi loved melons, but he was much too lazy to grow them himself. So he sat up in the thorn tree watching and waiting while the sun rose high in the sky and the day grew warm. By the time noon came, it was too hot to work. Elephant put down his hoe and went inside his house to take a nap. Here was the moment Anansi had been waiting for. He broke off a thorn and dropped down into the melon patch. He used the thorn to bore a hole into the biggest, ripest melon. Anansi squeezed inside and started eating. He ate and he ate until he was round as a berry. I'm full, Anansi said at last. Elephant will be coming back soon. It is time to go. Well, what do you suppose has happened? When Anansi tried to squeeze through the hole, he had a surprise. He didn't fit. The hole was big enough for a thin spider, but much too small for a fat one. Oh, I'm stuck, Anansi cried. Oh, I can't get out. I will have to wait until I am thin again. Anansi sat down in a pile of melon seeds and waited to get thin. Time passed slowly. I'm bored, Anansi said. I wish I had something to do. Just then he heard Elephant returning to the garden. Anansi had an idea. When Elephant gets closer, I will say something. Elephant will think the melon is talking. Oh, what fun. Elephant walked over to the melon patch. Look at this fine melon. How big and ripe it is, he said, picking it up. Ouch! Cried Anansi. Elephant jumped. Oh, who said that? I did. The melon, Anansi said. I didn't know melons could talk, said the elephant. Oh, of course we do. We talk all the time. The trouble is you never listen. I can't believe my ears, Elephant exclaimed. A talking melon. Who would believe it? I must show this to the king. Elephant ran down the road, carrying the melon with Anansi inside. Along the way, he ran into Hippo. Where are you going with that melon? Hippo asked. I'm taking it to the king, Elephant told him. What for? The king has hundreds of melons. He doesn't have one like this, Elephant said. This is a talking melon. Hippo didn't believe Elephant. A talking melon? What an idea! That's as ridiculous as a skinny hippo, the melon said. Hippo got so angry his face turned red. Who said that? Did you say that, Elephant? It wasn't me, it was the melon. Elephant said, I told you it talks. Do you believe me now? I do, Hippo exclaimed. I want to go with you. I want to hear what the king says when you show him this talking melon. Come along then, Elephant said, and so Elephant and Hippo went down the road together carrying the melon. By and by, they met Warthog. Where are you taking that melon? Warthog asked. We're taking it to the king, Elephant and Hippo told him. What for? The king has hundreds of melons, the Warthog said. He doesn't have one like this, Hippo replied. This melon talks, I heard it. Warthog started to laugh. A talking melon? Why, that is so ridiculous as... A handsome warthog, said Melon. Warthog got so angry he shook all over. Who said that? Did you say that, Elephant? Did you say that, Hippo? Of course not, Hippo and Elephant told him. The melon talks. Do you believe us now? I do, cried Warthog. Let me go with you. I want to see what the king does when you show him a talking melon. And they continued down the road to the king. Well, along the way they met Ostrich, Rhino, and Turtle. They didn't believe the melon could talk either until they heard it for themselves. Then they all wanted to come along too. The animals came before the king. Elephant bowed low as he placed the melon at the king's feet. The king looked down. Why did you bring me a melon? He asked Elephant. I have hundreds of melons growing in my garden. Oh, But you don't have one like this, Elephant said. This melon talks. A talking melon? I don't believe it. Say something, melon. The king prodded the melon with his foot. The melon said nothing. Melon, the king said in a slightly louder voice, there is no reason to be shy. Say whatever you like. I only want to hear you talk. The melon said nothing. The king grew impatient. Melon, if you can talk, I want you to say something. I command you to speak. The melon did not make a sound. The king gave up. Oh, this is a stupid melon, he said. Just then, the melon spoke. Stupid, am I? Why did you say that? I'm not the one who talks to melons. The animals had never seen the king so angry. How dare this melon insult me? He shouted. The king picked up the melon and hurled it as far as he could. The melon bounced and rolled all the way to the elephant's house. Kaboom! It smacked into the thorn tree and burst into pieces. Anansi picked himself up from among the bits of melon rind. All this excitement had made him thin, and now that he was thin again, he was hungry. Anansi climbed the banana tree. He settled himself in the middle of a big bunch of bananas and started to eat. Elephant returned. He went straight to the melon patch. Oh, you melons got me in trouble with the king, Elephant said. From now on, you can talk all you like. I'm not going to listen to a word you say. Good for you, Elephant, Anansi called from the bananas. We bananas should have warned you. Talking melons are nothing but trouble. And with that, this story is told out.
Thank you, Dan. That was great. I love that story. It reminds me so much of me when I was a kid. I can remember a time that my mom came home with a melon, and she would always put these melons on the counter to ripen. And as they ripen, there's a wonderful fragrance that comes from it. And I would go by and take a sniff, and oh, I wanted to eat that melon so badly. I went and cut it open, and I ate part of the melon. And then my mom was so mad because she was going to serve that night for dinner, and I had eaten most of the melon. So I was kind of like Anansi. I wasn't patient enough, and I wasn't paying attention to all the things we need in a family to make things work. There's an old saying that patience is a virtue. And what it means is that it's a skill that we have to practice, we have to work on. And you don't always get it right, but over the course of your life, over the course of my life, I've learned to be patient more and more. Waiting is part of life. Waiting is something we learn to do, and if we're able to do it, then sometimes in the end, we have a really nice ripe melon or a ripe tomato that we get to enjoy. Here in the garden, we often find spiders, or we find the webs of the spiders. And I think spiders have a lot to teach us about patience, because for much of their life, they sit and they wait for the food to come to them. Now, a lot of people don't like spiders, and I think sometimes they surprise us and startle us. I think people are afraid of getting bitten, and all you need to know is if you don't touch them, they're not going to bother you. Here in Minnesota, we're pretty lucky. The spiders people think of right off the bat are things like black widows and tarantulas and brown recluses, and they might even put daddy longlegs in there. Daddy longlegs aren't actually spiders, and they're totally vegetarian, and they can't hurt you at all. The other three, the brown recluse and the tarantulas and the black widows, don't live here. Brown recluse do get up into southern Iowa, but here in Minnesota, if they find one, it's usually been a hitchhiker in somebody's suitcase or something like a shipment of bananas that went to the grocery store. Sometimes people have to be careful when they unpack those, but normally you don't run across them. So we're pretty lucky. We can look at spiders and we don't really have to worry about any poison or anything else. Why care about spiders? Well, they're everywhere. They're in just about every habitat, and they play a really, really important role in nature. In a lawn like this, there could be hundreds, and most of the time you don't even see them. In the garden, you might stumble across them, but you have to kind of learn to look for spiders. But they're really super, super cool. They obviously eat a lot of insects that, like mosquitoes, are a much bigger health risk to us than the spiders themselves are. Spiders are an important food source for other animals. Birds will eat them, and of course the wasps we learned about, they will capture them and feed them to their young. Hummingbirds like to use the spider silk to hold their nests together, so they are a really, really important part of the ecosystem. And late summer, like now, and fall are great times to look for them, and mornings are a great time to look for them. How do you tell spiders apart from insects? Well, you probably know insects have 3 legs on each side of their body for a total of 6, and spiders have got 8. And whereas insects have a head, thorax, and abdomen, spiders have the abdomen and the head and thorax are combined into one unit, so they've only got 2 main body parts. Sometimes when you look at them up near the front, there'll be what look like 2 extra legs. Those are pedipalps, and they use those like we use our hands to hold things, to feel things, to help them climb, to help them particularly manipulate their prey items. And the males have bigger pedipalps than the females because they use them in the act of mating. Cool things about spider, one of the coolest things is their silk, and all spiders have spinnerets to form silk. That silk is stronger than a thread of steel if it were the same size, same diameter, and that's pretty amazing. And it's also really, really stretchy. There are an awful lot of engineers working on trying to create some synthetic fiber that is as good as spider silk, and so far they haven't been able to do it, but that's pretty amazing stuff. There are 7 different kinds of silk depending on what proteins they're using. Some of them are really sticky and some of them are not. Some of them are used to wrap around the egg ball to protect the eggs. They use them in all sorts of different ways, and they can control how sticky that web is too. One of the cool things, the big fancy webs that you often see, those are the orb weaver webs. The spider actually deconstructs that every day, chews it up, swallows it, and within half an hour those proteins are incorporated in new webbing. So every day they rebuild that. Talk about patience. That takes a lot of patience and skill to do that. When you look at spiders, there's several different groups. They are often told apart by their web. The classic orb weaver is one, and those are quite beautiful, and they weave them in a very particular way with a strand of silk across the top and then down to the bottom, and then they do the axis and then they start spinning around the inside. One of the more common spiders that people don't think about much are the sheet web builders, and particularly if there's a good dew in the morning, you'll see these in the leaves or in the grasses, and they just look like a little tiny trampoline. But beware, there's a spider there, and any ant or anything that crawls on there will get caught in it. And sometimes the edge of that sheet will have a tunnel, and in that case you'll have a tunnel spider. Then one of my favorites is a nursery spider. We've got milkweed here in the garden, and sometimes you'll see that milkweed or other plants, irises and things, with the leaves folded over. And if you look carefully, they're stitched together with silk. And if you peek inside, there'll be an egg ball from a spider, and that's how they take care of their young. There are several spider groups that don't spin webs at all. They are very active hunters. Wolf spiders I find a lot in the woods. Then there are fishing spiders down at lakes, and they're very camouflaged. They have these brown and tan stripes, so they hide, but anytime you pick up wood and stuff, look for them, because that's where they are. They're called wolf spiders because they are among the fastest of the spiders, and they can just kind of dash out and run away from you and hide again. They're very good at hiding, but they're also very good at hunting. One cool thing, when they lay their eggs, the female will bundle them up into a little egg sac, and she will carry them under her body and go on about her daily business, but she carries those babies with her. And after they hatch, they climb on her back, and she carries them for another couple days before they disperse and go on to their own lives. So they are very good mothers. When you go to look at the pollinator garden, I'm gonna pull a yellow flower here. This is a dandelion. And if you look very closely, sometimes you'll see a fly or something, and it looks like it isn't going anywhere. It's just kind of frozen there. And if you touch it, you realize it's dead. And if you look really careful down underneath, there may be a crab spider. Crab spiders hide on the flowers, and when a suitable bee or fly or something comes close, they quickly jump out and grab it. So they're very patient, and then when they need to, they move very, very fast. And they will grab their prey that way. Cool thing about crab spiders is they can change their color. They can go from white to yellow to pink. So depending on the flower they're on, they actually camouflage themselves to match. It's astounding that they can do that. And then one of my favorite kinds of spider, jumping spiders. They also don't build webs, but they will hunt, and they have eyes. They have 8 eyes all around their head. And eye placement, the number of eyes and where they are in the head, is often a key identifying characteristic. But the jumping spiders have really big ones in the front. And I just think they're the cutest thing ever. They're so tiny, and they're so bright, and they're so beautiful. So when you come to our garden, or when you go for a walk outside in the woods or around a lake or in a prairie, keep your eye out for our spider friends, because they are everywhere, and they're very good at hiding, and they're very patient, and they do us a lot of good, and they're super fun to learn about. So there you have my little spider lesson. I've got a book that I bought a number of years ago by Larry Weber called Spiders of the North Woods. This is one of several field guides that you can use to help identify spiders, and there are lots of resources online as well. So, spiders. Let us be thankful for spiders, for all the creatures. Let us be mindful of the good that they do in the ecosystem, and treat all things with respect and kindness, including spiders and all the people. I had one other thing I was going to do. I have a suggestion for an art project. The Navajo say that Spider Woman taught them how to weave. And the Navajo, you might know, are really, really good at weaving. Navajo women often have a loom set up in their living spaces, and they spend all winter doing that, making beautiful rugs. And if you look at a Navajo rug, the classic rug has a little thread that comes in from the outside, and that is like a connection to the story of the Spider Woman. They think of the web, and they think of that thread coming in from all the rugs before and all the rugs after that have ever been made. And it's just kind of a sweet little blessing that they do. So I went out in my yard today, and I used a pair of clippers, and I found box elder. I like a plant that has a tree or a shrub that's got a lot of side branches. And you can pretend to be a spider, or you can pretend just to be, you can be an artist. You don't even have to pretend. Now that I got the leaves off of it, you can see the structure. There's a lot of branches here. This one's a little bit too small to be functional. But I'm gonna weave on here, and this is a super fun thing to do. I happen to have red yarn, and I will pull a good bit of this off. And it's really fun if you've got different colors. You'll need to tie a knot. You pick a spot. If you were a spider, you would probably go to one of the highest spots, and you would attach your web here. And so I'm going to tie a little square knot here. If you don't know how to tie a square knot, get a grown-up or an adult to teach you. Spiders will go across and they will make a harness at the top, and then they go down and back up to where they started, or they might go over here and then across. So as you get going, you can take this thread and you can weave it around, and you can make an actual spider web, or you can just sort of make a pattern. Whatever you feel like would be just fine. If I wanted to come down lower, I might come here, and then eventually I will run out of thread and I will need another color, and then I'll have to tie this off. So again, if you don't know how to do a square knot, get a grown-up to help you. But you want to tie that off, and then at this point you can choose a different color if that's something you'd like to do, or you could choose the same color. I've got something of a tangle here. So you play with the pattern, you play with the colors, and in the end you'll have something quite pretty that you can put in your room, or give to a special friend, or hang up in your living room and think about spiders who have taught us how to weave. And as you can tell, I've got a little pattern started here. I call this stick weaving, but it is very definitely inspired by spiders and the patience that they teach us. So with that note, let's give thanks for spiders and all that they teach us and all that nature teaches us, and be grateful for those lessons. And may we learn patience so that it can guide us and help us be successful in the world. And with that, we'll extinguish our flame. Although we extinguish the light of the chalice here, we know that the warmth of love and the light of truth will go with us in our hearts. Have a great week.